It's on a subconscious level, but on a subconscious emotional level, lizard brain level, right? People get a thrill out of saying no. It gives them a power trip. They love to say no. We love to say no.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Read a book this last year. I think I've talked about it actually on the podcast before. The book is called Never Split the Difference. It's written by Chris Voss. This is not a book report today, but there is a principle in there that I think will be helpful to appraisers. It's just a kind of a little bit of a tweak on what you may be doing currently, but I think might be helpful. I'm hoping it will be helpful to you. I know it was helpful to me yesterday. I want to pause here and remind you about another thing that, of course, is very helpful to me every day, and that is ANOW software. ANOW allows me to be able to check the status of any report at any time in my office, in my business. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time, it's anow.com/coach. Well, folks, today's going to be a very short mini-sode. It's just maybe a message out there, an experience that I had yesterday that I've been trying more and more often to do, not just in my business, but in my personal life, in any interaction, any communication that I have with others. It's just a little bit of a tweak, and I think this will ring true to you, especially as you start to try it. At first, when I heard the principle, I thought, really? It doesn't seem right, because it kind of flies in the face of Marketing 101, okay? If you've ever had any marketing classes, you know that they will teach you that your goal is to get a yes, that you keep pushing until you get a yes, and you don't give up until you get a yes. And people that are successful in marketing keep pushing until they get a yes. Well, Chris Voss, by the way, his background is he was the lead hostage negotiator for, I believe, the FBI. It's been a while since I read it, but one of the alphabet soups of the government, and this guy was good. This guy learned a lot about human nature, learned a lot about how people react emotionally to things, and he has applied those same principles that he used in hostage negotiations to business, to negotiations in business. And I found it to be a very helpful book. I found it to be very interesting. It was one of those books, one of the few books that I've read twice. It was so good, and I missed so much the first time that as soon as I got done, I started it over and re-listened to it. I don't ever actually read anything anymore. I'm an audiobook guy, but just because I spend so much time in the car, it's hard to sit down and actually find any time to read. Okay, I've got a little voice in my head saying, okay, Dustin, that wasn't fair. You need to say that right. I don't take the time. I could make time. I could take time, right? It's not like time just appears and oh, gee, I've got time to read right now. No, you have to make time for things that are important. I don't make time to read. Let's just put it where it is, right? Anywho, but this was one that I read, quote unquote, listened to twice. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. But one of the principles that he teaches in this book is that you will have more success getting a no and going after a no, getting people to say no, than you will going after a yes. And I want to explain that when I get back from the break and give you an example of how this works. But want to, of course, remind you that we are sponsored by ANOW software. ANOW, just this morning, folks, I jumped on there, and my goal was to find out where we were for the month. Today is the 22nd of the month as I'm recording this. And so I know I need to be at a certain level. I gave the podcast here a couple of episodes back about the monthly nut, and I'm always checking to make sure that we're there. And at first, I was a little bit freaked out. I got on ANOW software and I clicked, and I thought, "Holy smokes, we're way low for the month." Then I realized I had a filter marked, and I love this about ANOW. You can filter anything, and all I had was the in progress reports, and I'm thinking, okay. So I unclicked that, and that included now the completed reports for the month. And I'm thinking, whew, okay, we're in a lot better shape than I thought we were. I love A Now gives you a snapshot anytime you want of anything. If you want to find out what's going on in your business, A Now will allow you to do that. Folks, if you're not using this program, what the heck are you waiting for? Just go to your computer, type in www.anow.com/coach and start using it today. All right, folks, we are back. We are talking today about a principle that I learned or was reminded of. Well, learned. I would say learned. It's something that it rang true to me. So I've probably heard it somewhere or I've tried it somewhere myself. But I've tried it several times since. I'm going to give you one example here. But first, I'm going to give you the example as I can remember it. Okay, from his book. Again, this has been several months since I read the book. The book is Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, and it's a great book and teaches a lot of principles in there. But one of the principles he says is go after a no, and here's why. Let me tell you the why, then I'll give you his example, and then I'll give you my example, and then we'll close it up for the day. His reasoning is that people actually get a power trip off of saying no, and it's not even something they're probably going to recognize, and it's probably not something that's even conscious. It's on a subconscious level. But on a subconscious, emotional level, lizard brain level, right? People get a thrill out of saying no. It gives them a power trip. They love to say no. We love to say no. I mean, think back to, if you've ever had a toddler in your home, right? A 1.5, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, they love to say no. They love to say no. And I don't think we ever outgrow that. We love to say no. And if you can get people to say no, they feel good about themselves. They feel good about themselves. The other thing, and he mixes this in there as well, we hate to disappoint people. So we hate to burden people. Okay? I think just naturally we don't like to put burdens on other people, regardless of who they are. So if you combine those two principles, people love to say no, and they don't like to burden people. The way you phrase things may be better than what you are currently doing if you think you're going after a yes. The example he gives in the book from memory, again, I could be getting it wrong. And by the way, if I am getting it wrong, please correct me. You can, and I highly encourage that you give me feedback on these episodes. You can just go to my website, go to the podcast link, and you can shoot me a message. But the example in the book that he gave, you know what? Now that I think about it, it actually may not be an example from the book. It may actually be the individual who encouraged me to read. It was. Okay, let me correct myself. The example I'm going to give you did not come from the author. The example came from the individual who encouraged me to read the book, and he gave me the example of getting a no. And he said, it's interesting, and he just went through a painful divorce. And he says, it's interesting, whenever I negotiate terms of custody, okay, I've always thought that it would be best to go after a yes. And this guy's a marketing guy, by the way. And he said, I would basically ask permission, can I come pick up the kids? Well, because we're trained to, especially in a visceral relationship like that, the exes, it's not a pleasant situation. It can be for some, but in their case, it's not. He said, my ex wants to say no, and will on a pretty regular basis. And he said, I switched my approach. And what I said instead was, would it be a problem if I picked up the kids at 3:00? Now, the difference is this. Can I pick up the kids at 3:00? Okay. And most of the time the answer was no, because she wants to be in control. 2, would it be a problem if I picked up the kids at 3:00? It's a slight difference, but he said it's made all the difference in the world because she wants to say no. She wants to say no. Now, she may not play into the second part of that principle that we don't want to disappoint, because maybe she does want to disappoint. I don't know. But let me tell you how this played out yesterday for me. Again, very simple, very non-wow experience, but it was a reminder to me of how easy this is to use and that it works most of the time. I was on my way to an appointment. I was running about 30 minutes early. So I picked up the phone and I called the appointment. And instead of saying, can I come early? Okay, I simply said, would it be a problem if I was there 30 minutes before I had planned? Now, maybe the answer would have been fine either way. I don't know. I'm not in that guy's head. But the answer that came back was very, very quick, and it was no. And I believe it plays into the principle. The principle is people like to say no because it puts them in control, and they don't like to disappoint. Okay, they don't want to be a problem or a burden to someone. So by saying, would it be a problem if? And then you simply ask for what you need. Most of the time, you're going to come out on top. Folks, we talk about these kind of things in the Appraiser Academy every month. These types of negotiations, these types of marketing ideas, every single meeting that we have, we talk about hard-hitting, important stuff that will allow you to be a more productive business owner. Check it out. Go to memberships on the Appraiser Coach website. That's theappraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
The book is Chris Voss's, sorry, editor. We're going to have to back up here. I forgot the name of the book. But nonetheless, it was about an individual who was, sorry, editor. Sorry, you're going to have to do all kinds of editing here today.